Hello to some people that are here already. We have Tony Lee with us this morning as well. Some other things we want to thank Judy Homer as well. Judy's been doing an incredible job of sending unique and different cards to people on their birthdays. So for those of you who have birthdays and you want to be remembered, be sure you get your dates into us so we can send you a card. Judy has real artistic talent that I am envious of. Today we're going to sing hymns. Eileen is going to lead us, but I'm going to ask you to mute. Sing at home. If you don't, we will have a disaster. We'll short circuit everything. So let Eileen lead you. We've got 4 hymns. They're all printed out for you, and Margarita will print them out on the screen as well. But do not unmute for your sake and ours. Some of you have voices that did not make it into the choir. There are good reasons for that. That's all I'll say. I don't believe I just said that. Number 3, our class continues. For those of you who are interested, we've been doing a class on what happened after Jesus died. We spent the entire fall talking about the life of Jesus, life and times without dogma and doctrine. Now we're ready to begin 4 months later on the original stuff, and that begins in January 9th. Cats. It turns out All Souls has, this is a horror. It really is a horror. I was not aware of this. We have lots of people who have cats. Lots of people have cats. So we are going to have a feature in 2 weeks celebrating All Souls' cats. It has been brought to my attention that there is a bias about hounds and dogs. I mean, we'll have to follow this up with another one on dogs. It seems that we have 1 million dogs here, and people have pointed out there are lots of cats. Those of you who know what Maine Coon cats are, okay. Eileen, all right, send a picture in. Not this week. Next week, we've got all kinds of cats. Maine Coon cats. All over the place, cats. So Eileen, send a picture of your cat. Anybody else who has a cat, send a picture of your cat. The dogs will be nice. Melissa even has a cat. Anybody else here have a cat? Melissa, Eileen, Kim has cats. Sharon has a cat. Oh, 2. All right, send us pictures. Send us pictures. All right, we'll celebrate the cats. All righty, moving along then. We've got 2 upcoming services on the 20th and on the 24th. Anna Veris won a professional scholarship, full boat at the Boston Conservatory, Berkeley. And she is now a really, really accomplished singer, and she's singing because she's coming home and singing both on the 20th and the 24th. So we're delighted to have that. Serge will be doing the service on the 24th. I don't know if you believe in prayer or not, but he's borrowing my T495 Lenovo super laptop. If he should in any way damage that, we'll be looking for a new chairman of All Souls. As well, I will be raiding the treasury to get replenished for my laptop. Not any threats or anything. Let's see, what do we have here? The board. I'm sorry for all these announcements. This is a time to get hold of everybody here. Melissa is going to be our new secretary. Nick is going to move over to tech. He's going to be on the board for tech. And Judy Anderson is coming on the board, is required to do law work and legal work and to try to get us into nonprofit status. So that leaves us so far with Serge, if he lives, after borrowing my laptop. Rick Homer as vice president, Melissa as secretary, Margarita as treasurer, and that leaves us with Nick and tech on the board and Joyce. And if anybody else is interested, let us know. The board does not meet often, and the reason is very simple. We have no money. When you have no money, there's no fighting. Seriously, it is an amazing thing what happens when you have money. The fights that take place are incredible. There's something to be said for being poor. For those of you that have never been with us before, our budget runs, this will be a shock to you, about $6,000 a year. That's it. That comes as a huge shock to everybody. You'll all get copies of that. So when I say we run on a non-money making profit thing here, this is not the prosperity gospel. Thank you. I mean it. All right. Having said that, please remember to give. Having after said all of that, you have a thing. If you can send us a check from time to time, or it really helps. You'll be all getting a proposed budget in a few weeks. Everything here is transparent. We've always done it that way. So there's nothing out there. And in a sense, remember, it's kind of nice having no money, really, believe it or not. Oh, okay. So more people have joined us. Tom and Gail Besaw, again from Port Orange. Hal and Linda from Port Orange. John and Chris from Port Orange. Ed Johnson from Florence, South Carolina. Sharon and Dennis from Port St. Lucie. Forest Hills in Queens. In Brooklyn, Connecticut, we've got Nick, and Eric is here with us, a student and his girlfriend, and Chrissy is here, student, and we welcome you all. And so our introit this morning is a delightful, this was supposed to be for celebrating Hanukkah. I'll get to that in a moment. So preparing us for the Hanukkah season, the Barcelona Gypsy Klezmer Band with a peace be upon you rousing hello. Jewish music is extraordinarily similar to Gypsy music, and so they find that they have combined the two. This group is made up of Roma, made up of Sephardic Jews, and they play everywhere. You can hear the music, and so this is an introduction to Hanukkah. Hanukkah, about 2,100 years ago, a little bit more, is when there was a civil war in the Holy Land, and the tribe of Maccabees won the civil war, went into the Jewish temple, which had been taken over by pagans, and cleaned it out. And in cleaning out the temple and removing all the pagan artifacts, they found, what was the story goes, kind of like a boat that held oil, and they lit it at nighttime, and it stayed lit. And it turns out, according to the story, the legend, it stayed lit for 7 or 8 nights, depending upon who you talk to. The idea was light overcoming darkness. Light always overcomes darkness. So Hanukkah is celebrated, started on the 10th of December. We have many Jewish members here. That's part of our heritage as well. So Rowena, representing Reconstruction Judaism, was going to bring one of her famous menorahs. She is not here, so this is obviously not a menorah. This is one. So we light this symbolically, remembering our Jewish roots, remembering the rededication of the Second Temple over 2,100 years ago. When we return on the 20th, she will have the menorah as we bookend the other end of Hanukkah. With that, we come from a very old hymn, Emmanuel, meaning God be with us, El being the root word, the old Canaanite god of El. This is taken from the book of the prophet Isaiah. There are 4 verses, and if you would sing along at home, and I will mute as well, and if you would lead us, Eileen.
Okay.
Emmanuel shall come within as love to dwell. Rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as true to dwell. voice, Emmanuel shall come within as hope to dwell. Our call to worship this morning, I will ask you to read the big, bold. I will read the small italics. From the loneliness of troubled times we come to discover that we are not alone. Into the dwelling place of togetherness we come.
To collect the remnants of hope.
From fear that all is lost, we come
to discover what will save us.
Into the comfort of each other's arms, we come
to feel the strength that has not yet vanished.
From darkness, we come to wait
until our eyes
can see.
And for those of you who would like to read with me together a morning prayer. May we light candles of joy despite all sadness. Candles of hope where despair keeps watch. Candles for courage, for fear ever present. Candles
of peace
for tempest-tossed days. Candles of grace to ease heavy burdens. Candles of love to inspire.
They're all living.
And may their light shine all the year long. Amen.
Amen.
And if you would, Eileen. We're going to ask Melissa to read the very, very famous prophecy from the book of the prophet Isaiah. This is also read during this time of the year. If you would, Melissa.
The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea.
And I'll ask Samantha to help us lead us the responsive reading. She will read the first part. We will read the indented together.
This is a season of anticipation, of expecting, of hoping, of wanting. This is the time of expecting the arrival of something or someone.
We are waiting.
This is the time of living in darkness and the hues of the unknowing, of being quiet, of reflecting on a year almost past, waiting for a new beginning, for a closing or an end. This is a time for digesting the lessons of days gone past, anticipating the future for which
we are waiting.
Waiting for a world which can know justice, waiting for a lasting peace, waiting for the bridge to span the divides which separates us, waiting for a promise or a hope. For all of this,
we are waiting.
We are waiting.
And Sam will continue reading again from the book of the prophet Isaiah.
Have you not known? Have you not heard? But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint.
We have 3 verses of Deck the Halls. Please mute, unless you all want to try singing this together. I'm afraid to know what it would sound like. Do you want to try and sing this together? Do you want to unmute? Try it?
Yeah.
Oh, help me.
Yeah, let's sing.
Yeah. Go for it.
If it goes badly, we'll mute.
Excuse me, I have to tell you this. Most congregations do not like to do services live. This is a perfect example of why we are all nuts. Okay, Eileen, would you lead us? Play it through once and then we'll sing 3 verses. Okay. Ready? Halls with boughs of holly. La 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 la.
This is the season to be jolly. La 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 la.
We now
all right, stop. We will now mute and sing along. I am sure that if God was hearing this, God has fled to Aruba. All right, if you'd be kind enough to mute and we can sing to our heart's content at home. If you'd start again, Eileen, please. La 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 la. Is the season to be jolly? Fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel. Fa la 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 la. Roll the ancient Yuletide carol. Fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure, la 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 la. Fast away the old year passes, la 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 la. Hail the new year, lasses, la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together, fa la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, fa la 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 la.
Oh, close.
We need it down a few notes.
Claus, you forgot to mute.
Yes, I just see that. Lovely, lovely. All right. This morning, this is really one of those kinds of times when you have some words to share and you realize that you are a total hypocrite as you're doing this. My wife in Spanish, and I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong, it's paciencia y tranquilos. Yeah, paciencia y tranquilos. In Spanish, this means having great patience and being tranquil. As everybody here knows, I am the last person on this planet who should be talking about patience. I see people who've known me from a very long time ago are going, yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And being tranquil. I have no idea what that means. I know what the word means. However, I have not shown much in my life, past or present, of acting that out. Having said that, let me begin. Advent, you might be interested in knowing, is the time of the year in Christianity where you celebrate some weeks, 4 weeks, usually before Christmas. This is a riot in the sense that nobody knows how it began. Really and truly. It's the first instance of this is some monks in France in the late 400s deciding that they needed to prepare for the second coming of Jesus. They needed to prepare for his birth. And since they were unworthy, they needed to do this in penance and fasting. And so the colors of penance and fasting were dark. And so black was funeral, so they did it in deep purple. This will slowly begin to catch on in the Teutonic areas, especially in the cold winter time when things get dark very, very quickly in the evening. So ultimately it becomes a time of fasting and penance, celebrating the nativity, the divinity of Christ, and the second coming. The question of penance is interesting. Why would you be celebrating penance for something that would be joyful? The answer starts with an obscure at the time prelate in a really remote part of Africa. His name was Augustine, later to be called Saint Augustine or Saint Augustine, and he was in the little town of Hippo, believe it or not, which was in the middle of nowhere. It was south of Carthage, and after having led a wild life growing up, his famous words, "O Lord, make me chaste, but not yet." That's a direct quote from his confession. Seriously, "O Lord, make me chaste, but not yet." All righty. Having said that, he gets religion, and you know where that usually goes. And he pens this whole magnus opus on original sin. It's his idea that somehow Adam and Eve passed on to us through their offspring down the line the seeds of original sin. That we are, because of Adam, wicked, nasty, and awful. Therefore, since we are wicked, nasty, and awful, there is no way we can approach Jesus and his birth and who he is unless we do penance. Penance and fasting and beating the breast, bewailing and bemoaning sins and wickedness. So think, if you will, dark, cold weather, sins, wickedness, original sin, fasting. And then twinkle, if you will, since we're living in the United States, Jonathan Edwards, "Sinners in the Hand of an Angry God," not to be outdone by the way of the Church of England, who in 1552 was to write this prayer just before communion. Do you love this? Let me read it to you. "We do," said by the congregation and the priest, "we do not presume to come to this thy table, O merciful Lord, trusting in our own righteousness, but in your manifold and great mercies. We are not worthy so much as to gather up even the crumbs under your table, and you beat your breast. Easy, easy, Kenneth, easy. Grant us, therefore, gracious Lord, so to eat the flesh of your dear Son and to drink his blood, that our sinful bodies be made clean by his body, and our souls washed through his most precious blood, that we may evermore dwell in him and he with us. Amen. Now, one of the problems that I've always had with this is the theology. And I've said this before, and I say it again, just to remind everybody, what kind of God? Well, let me backtrack. The traditional God behind all of this has the threes: all-knowing, all-creating, and all-powerful. That's very important to know the all-knowing. That means you know all the past and you know all the future. So then why would this God, if this God is all-knowing, create an entity which is going to sin, cause this God to get royally ticked off, and then slam the rest of us for all eternity? Would you explain that to me? That makes absolutely no sense. No sense whatsoever. Now, if those of you gathering here today like beating yourselves up, beating your breast, and flagellating yourselves and saying you're wicked and awful and mean, I understand that. I personally have trouble believing in a God that creates knowing full well that the creation is going to mess up and then get mad at it in the process. So you're probably saying, okay, then we get that. Then why are we having Advent? Good question. Good question. Advent, I think, for us, in a more liberal way, reminds us that it is important for human beings to celebrate rituals and seasons. This is something we do as a species. Things come and they go, and it helps us mark certain parts of time. Can you imagine how boring it would be without marking certain seasons? And I think this goes back way, way before organized religion. Seasons came, seasons went. Planting, hot, cold, it's a way of marking time. In our tradition, we have 3 seasons that we mark. Back 2,100 years ago, the cleansing of the Second Temple. Then we have the birth of Jesus. And then finally, we have the winter solstice. By the way, let me parenthetically bore everybody for a moment. Most people are not aware of this. Christianity never celebrated the birth of Jesus for several centuries. I don't know if you're aware of that. This comes as a big shock to everybody. Christians celebrated Easter because it was by Passover. Christmas comes much later for 2 reasons. This always shocks everybody. Number 1, it comes because the winter solstice. And number 2, the most important competitor of Christianity in its early centuries was the cult of Mithra, the bull, the manly cult, the strong god, who Alexander the Great brought back from Persia. Guess when Mithra's birthday was? Drum roll, December 25th. Yes. So you get Mithra's birthday, you get the winter solstice. What is there not to like? You grab that too. And if you're going to be honest about this, and I mean this with great love, a lot of Christianity is based upon pagan beginnings. Let me point out to everybody that has a Christmas tree, there were no Christmas trees in Palestine. Hello, there were no Christmas trees. There were no wreaths, and reindeers were not found anywhere in near Nazareth in the Galilee. Now, if you want to go way up north in the pagan areas, that's Odin, everybody remind Odin, trees, wreaths, reindeers, and all the rest of that. So Christians had no problem taking Druid crosses and turning them into Celtic crosses, no problems with trees, wreaths, and everything else. So why should it surprise us that Christmas did the same thing? Now, I mean this with a great deal of love. I don't mean this being snarky. So then, if that's the case, why not take Advent and then redefine it? Enjoy it as a season and suggest it has 2 things for us. Today we celebrate. No, we don't celebrate. That's the wrong word. We wrestle with waiting. And then on the 20th, we talk about anticipation. We take the season and, like early Christians did, we redefine it and then we redefine it again, and we are free to do that. So we switch from penance and scaringness and original sin and say we understand that, but we opt for a different divine reality, and we go for waiting and then anticipation. Okay, having said that, waiting is annoying. That's why I feel like a hypocrite. I'm going to sit here in front of all of you. What is it again, Maria? Paciencias y tranquilo. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yes. My wife, by the way, is looking at me thinking, you are really going to talk about waiting. I want to see you do this. All right, some examples of waiting. One of our members writes, I love to ask people what annoys them because it helps me get off the hot spot. I hate waiting to be put on hold for the phone. Yes? Do you all hate waiting to be put on hold for the phone? And then being forced to listen to music, and then some voice calls on and tells you, you're really important to us. 10 minutes later, you're really important to us. All right, here's another one. I hate waiting behind going a driver 20 miles an hour when the speed limit is high and you can't change lanes. Yes, if you lived in Miami, you would know that's a state of being. Here's one. Oh, Maureen Sullivan is not well. That woman comes up with music she has a library of music that is insane. So I put down something about waiting, and she says to me, I've got it. Have any of you heard of the Kinks? Some of you know the Kinks. All right. They're famous for a song called Lola. Do you remember Lola? Yes. All right. They also, this is scary. They also wrote a song called So Tired. Oh, you know that too. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I was a lonely soul. I had nobody till I met you. But you keep me waiting. All of the time, what can I do? It's your life, and you can do what you want. Do what you like. But please don't keep me waiting. Please don't keep me waiting, because I'm so tired of waiting for you. Moving right along. We have waiting for, where is it here? I had a whole list of things we were waiting. What happened to my list? What happened to my list? Where did it go? Here we have some more. I hate robocalls. I hate trying to talk to representatives again on the phone. And then I had a whole list of things we wait for. Oh, here's another good one. Houston's airport was having complaints about people having to wait for their luggage to arrive. It turns out when you got off the plane at the airport in Houston, it was 1 minute to walk where the luggage thing was. So what the Houston airport did is move the luggage rack, move the luggage bin 10 minutes away, so you had to walk all the way for the luggage. So therefore you wouldn't complain about having to wait for the luggage. Yes. Some other things we hate waiting for. You hating to wait to visit someplace, some friends. You hate waiting to visit to go on a trip. You have to wait to go on a trip. You wait and wait and wait. Some of you are waiting for final grades. Some of you are waiting for a promotion. Some of you are waiting for love. Some of you are waiting to get out of love. Some of you are waiting for the doctor's office. Waiting in the doctor's office is really annoying. And this is a great one from one of our members. Waiting. Patience is a virtue that I shall never master in my real life. No, I didn't write that. Somebody else did. But with my students, I can. The person writes that she has no patience whatsoever, but it is incredible how she has tremendous patience with her students. There are things I think we've all waited for. I'm waiting for Trump to leave. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but I am. There are lots of things. I'm waiting for COVID to be over. I'm waiting for sickness to end. I'm waiting for people who should have been not dead. I'm dying. Did you realize there was a scandal the other day where they just uncovered that our governor had kept from, they uncovered the son, the Fort Lauderdale Sun uncovered his emails where he told his staff not to tell the people in Florida how bad COVID was. That's right. Our governor hid the fact that we were not to be told how bad COVID was. So we have been an epicenter of COVID in the country, and the state of Florida has had unbelievable amounts of deaths in nursing homes, and it was covered up. I'm waiting for something to happen to him too. So having just said waiting, I come up with the Advent 5 of waiting. Now I realize as I say this that I am you. I don't know who is speaking this, but it isn't Kenneth Claus, so we clear about that. There is somebody here who's taken over me because I should be sitting listening to this. Are we clear about that? You got that? Just as you are all looking at this, I am now on the other side and somebody has taken over who I am because I should not be saying this. Number one, it's a good time to remember during Advent, we are not in control. You and I in this country are control freaks. We want to control everything. All right, some of you are more mature. A lot of us like to control everything. Am I right? I don't know why. It's built into us. It seems to be in our DNA. We want to be in control. One of the things that's really been bothering lately is that you and I do not talk about fate and luck. Fate and luck are scary. That means things happen and you have no say about it. They absolutely have no say. Things just happen. And, you know, sometimes you're lucky. That gets scary too, because the opposite side of lucky is unlucky. But the reality is we don't talk about fate and luck. Oh, waiting for Godot. Thank you. I just remembered that. Waiting for Godot. We don't like to talk about fate, especially we're liking to talk about control, and we don't like to talk about luck because we have to think about being unlucky. The reality is waiting causes us, whether we like it or not, to remind us how little we are not in control of things. Let me repeat something we said last time we were together. None of us had any say about our gender when we were born. None of us had any say about the color of our skin. None of us had any say about the texture of our hair. None of us had any say about the class into which we were born, the country into which we were born, the race into which we were born. Am I right? None of us had any say about that. And so we didn't have any say about our parents. We didn't have any say about what they brought to the table with parenting skills and love or lack of love. That gets kind of scary when you think about that. It really, really does. None of us had any say about our DNA. When you look at your DNA, it gets really, really interesting. Eric was not in the class, and neither was Christy when we did this, but one of my students whose parents are still very, very furious about that, did her DNA. And I mentioned this before, she's Cuban in background, she thought. She gets her DNA, and if you met her, she's got white skin, freckles all over the place, and nice, shiny, long black hair. Well, obviously, she's Iberian Peninsula. No Cuban, but Iberian Peninsula. Then she's 20%, ready? Moroccan, Mali, and Senegal. Well, who was in Spain for 700 years? Everybody forgets that. Hello, the tribes from Morocco, specifically the Atlas Mountains. And they traded on the other side of the Atlas Mountains. And what was the famous trading center? Timbuktu, which is in Mali. But they're not dumb. You have to go to the coast. And who's on the coast? Senegal. Yes. So you got Senegal, Mali, Morocco, into Spain, bingo. Well, she also got Iberian Peninsula, Mali, Senegal, Morocco, but then she got Irish. She looks Irish. She said to me, Dr. Claus, how did I get Irish? I said, it's very simple. She said, oh, really? Would you kind of explain that? The Irish, every 50 years, rebelled against those nasty English Protestants. They lost, except you're an aristocrat. The aristocrats were given safe passage to France. Hennessy is not a French name. Given safe passage to Spain. There were so many Irish expatriates in Spain that during the Napoleonic Wars, 2 field brigades of the Spanish army were all Irish, and they went to Cuba. How many Cuban Americans have you seen that have red hair and freckles, white skin and freckles? Look at your DNA. It is a riot. It is an absolute riot. And we had no say about that. Absolutely no say. Number two, Ben Franklin is not helpful. Okay, you're saying, my God, what does that mean? Ben Franklin's famous quote, time is money. We have become obsessed about money. I mean, seriously, all the things about this, the money, it's like, you know, it's not healthy. The stock market. I mean, our soon-to-be ex-president got absolutely obsessed with the stock market day in and day out. Most of us don't know much about stock markets. Most of us don't know much about trading. We are affected by stocks up and down, but the reality is this whole thing about money, you know, you can't take your money with you. Did you know that? Did you know that? I think the ancient Egyptians proved to us in these giant tombs loaded with everything, 90% of the tombs were looted within 50 years of the tombs being done. All these great, great excavations, they find empty tombs. They find a dead body, but all the goodies are gone. You can't take it with you. It's nice to have money to pay the bills. It's nice to have money to have a little left over. Have some fun, a trip, buy some things that are nice. But have you ever really met the really wealthy? It's like it becomes an obsession. Money begets more money, begets more money. How many houses can you have? How many cars can you have? How many watches? How many shoes? I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. It becomes, and then we get ourselves, you become defined by money. If you have money, you're something. If you have money, you're nothing. By that token, I am absolutely nothing. That's right. Your minister is absolutely nothing. My salary at All Souls is $2,500. I get $2,400 for teaching a class at the community college. After taxes, I bring home $1,900. I have no inheritance, no trust fund. So you add it all up, I think I make about, what do I make a year? 20,000 a year, 30,000 a year? 32,000 a year is my sum total, according to my wife, who's the accountant. Now, folks, today, that is almost poverty level. So by money standards, I am nothing. Oddly, I don't feel like nothing. I feel buoyant, alive, well, and I annoy everybody regularly. Money does not define who we are. It doesn't define our personalities. It doesn't define our souls. Number three, waiting is an imposition. An imposition to do what? You and I have been clobbered that we must work. It's an imposition that we're not working. I'm thinking of multitasking. You and I were brought up in age that the real cool person multitasks. Am I right? The real cool person is able to do dozens of things. Do you know the latest studies show that multitasking rots? It's no good. When you multitask, you don't wind up doing everything poorly. Focusing on one thing, I know this sounds old school, focusing on one thing is far healthier and far better than trying to do 10 things. Yet you and I grew up in this era that we must multitask. We have a screen here, a screen there, and I'm laughing at myself because when I start classes, I have to have a computer here, a computer there, and I have to have a smartphone. Do you realize how insane that sounds? You can't teach a class unless you have a screen here, a screen there, and a smartphone. It's kind of scary. When you ask somebody who they are, if I say to Eileen, and I meet Eileen Ronaldo for the first time, what do I say to Eileen? What do you do? What have we done to ourselves? We ask people not, who are you? Like, tell me a little about what you do. How do you like things? What makes you dream? What makes you laugh? What makes you cry? Tell me something about you, No, what do we ask everybody? I do this too. What do you do? Like what you do defines you. That's it. Like you have no you outside your job. Ooh. Number 4, we need to call ourselves out. I laughed at this. You and I are always screaming, we need time, right? We need more time. We need time out. We need time to enjoy, right? We need time to let go. And then what do we do when we have nothing to do? We go nuts. We go absolutely nuts. You have 3 hours off. You have 4 hours off. You have nothing to do, and you start pacing. You start making jobs for yourself. You make work for yourself. You make yourself busy because you have free time. We need to call ourselves out and say, if you want free time, then take the free and enjoy it. Am I right? Don't we all do this? Maureen Sullivan says she takes no time. She has no problem relaxing. I never like Maureen anyway. Number 3, moving right along. We need to recover, and I'm borrowing a thing from Nanette. She has this thing at the end of her emails called blessed unrest. I'm doing a variation on that, calling. We need to rediscover the blessedness of the time out. Not the time out for isolation or because we're bad or because we're being punished. We need to recover the blessed time out to go back to ancient Hinduism and ancient Buddhism. And even during the New Testament, you find this as well. For what? Simplicity and detachment. In the very beginning, the ancient Hindu pandits, in the beginning, Siddhartha, who grew up Hindu, what did he argue? Simplicity and detachment, taking time out. This sneaks in throughout the entire Gospels. And Jesus took himself to a quiet place. Nobody ever sees those. It's scattered all over the New Testament. Jesus took himself to a quiet place. We need to somehow, in this zeal of the land busyness of ours, this Puritan hangover, this Calvinistic work, or you'll be damned, we need to somehow recover that we are not what we do. We have a soul, a laughter, a joy, a crying, a uniqueness that is not our job. We need to enjoy blessed time out and need to recover a time of waiting that is blessed. And I say that to you and to me. I say it to us together. Amen. And we have another hymn. It came upon a midnight clear. This is a time in which many people are not merry. We have apartments that are now being foreclosed on. We have people's businesses who have not received money that they had hoped would keep them going a bit longer. We have people who are getting sick by the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and we have people who are dying. The Dakotas, which saw fit to offer no mask or distancing, in fact, said this was really not helpful, now have hospitals that are out of room. That's happening in El Paso, Texas, and it's happening again in Florida. Right here in Miami-Dade County, our mayor has gotten COVID, and she's worried because our hospitals are already straining. Our governor sees fit not to issue a mask or distancing order. I am concerned, as we all are, for all of our citizens. My mother is 94 in a nursing home. Some of you have parents and grandparents in nursing homes. Some of you have friends in nursing homes. Whether you know anyone or not, nursing homes are incredibly, incredibly vulnerable. So I'm asking us today, again, to take time out and to read these prayer couplets that I wrote for my religion classes, and read it, if you would, with me quietly. And if you would, kind of cut it out if you can. I've sent this to all of you. If you could cut it out and put it on your refrigerator door, is kind of a mantra to remind people daily. Let us remember the poor and the unfortunate. Let us have prayers and thoughts for the sick and the suffering, for the tempted and bereaved, for the forgotten and lonely. Let us offer a prayer or a thought this day and every day. The old Unitarian phrase, may it be so. Amen. One more time, for the poor and the unfortunate, the sick and the suffering, the tempted and bereaved, the forgotten and lonely. That is all of us in our lives at one time or another. All of us have been poor. All of us have been unfortunate. All of us have been sick. All of us have suffered. All of us have been tempted. Some of us more than others. Others have all been bereaved. Everybody here has been forgotten at one point or another, and everybody here has felt lonely. So these prayers are for us and for everyone. May we keep them in our hearts, put them on your refrigerator, keep them in a spot. It's a good way to begin the day or end the day or both. And before we begin our short communion service, Eileen, would you pray a carol for us? That was absolutely incredible. The way you played that sound, it was played like in the 1500s in a very, very ancient kind of, it was wild. How did you get the setting for that?
No, it's just a piano.
The piano sounds lovely. It sounds like it was taken from another time here. It was perfect for that piece. Thank you.
Oh, glad.
You all come from different backgrounds that are here this morning. You've all seen communion done in a variety of many ways. Chris Sloan grew up in Russian Orthodox where it was, do you remember the Russian Orthodox service?
Oh, yes. We all had to use the same cup and the same spoon, and it's just horrifying in these days.
All right. You come in different backgrounds. Some of you grew up in Roman Catholic backgrounds. Others of you grew up in various Protestant backgrounds. We have Jewish backgrounds. You name it. We have Anglican backgrounds from Jamaica. We have different backgrounds. All of these backgrounds bring with integrity certain ways of doing communion. I'm not sure how this started with All Souls, even though I was there at the very beginning, but the feeling was we wanted to do communion, but we wanted to do it the Jewish way in which it was done in the very beginning. In the very beginning, Jesus simply took bread because he was poor. Everybody forgets that. He was poor. 99% of his ministry was in the Galilee with peasants. And so when he took bread, he simply took bread. And the cup he used was diluted wine. And the idea taken long before Jesus' time was when you had strangers and friend, you offered them a simple bread. And you see here, it's simple. It's like matzah. It's like simply like matzah. And you offered that. And you took a simple cup and you took the cup. And at All Souls, we met the Jewish Community Center, we would take a piece and everybody would dip it into the cup and dip it into their mouths. And it's a moment of peace, a moment of fellowship, a moment of kindness. Early Christianity practiced what was called agape meals. It was a love fest, a love meal. Later on, as Christianity went to non-Jewish lands, holy mysteries, very different ways of processing things came in. We stuck at the very beginning with the old Jewish tradition of simple bread and simple cup. This did not work for everybody, so we opened the circle at the end so everybody would gather together. The circle excluded nobody. And we would say the following. And if you would wish to repeat after me, and for those of you who are visiting the first time, you're going to remember this. Some of this is from Winnie the Pooh. And I have no idea how or when this made it into our service, but I would be shot if we removed it. And it fits so well. Please repeat after me. Promise me you'll remember.
Promise me you'll remember.
You are braver than you believe.
You are braver than you believe.
Stronger than you seem.
Stronger than you seem.
And smarter than you think.
And
smarter than you think.
God didn't promise.
God didn't promise.
Days without pain.
Days without pain.
Laughter without sorrows.
Laughter without sorrows.
Sun without rain.
Sun without rain.
But the divine did promise.
But the divine did promise.
Strength for the day.
Strength for the day.
Comfort for the tears.
Comfort for the tears.
And light for the way.
And light for the way.
Now, again, for those of you who are visiting, you see in the program the black chip. I need to explain the black chip for those of you who are visiting. We stole this. We didn't borrow. We stole it from AA and NA. In NA and AA, before you leave, if you've got something that's bothering you, you pick up the black chip to remind you that part of your growth is getting rid of things that bother you. So we started this in the very beginning, and I might point out that we have gone through boxes of these. If you're going to be with us and you want to be part of this, you email me and we will gladly send you your own black chips so you can hold them up. Now, does anybody have a black chip to show that you have worked through an issue? Anybody have a black chip to show you've worked through an issue? Ah, Rory, all the way up from Fort Worth. Rory, yes, all right. He's smiling too well. You must have really worked through this. Good for you. All right.
He's gone.
Now, comes the delightful time at this time of the year. Does anybody have a black chip they have to pick up? I do. My wife got mad at me for a good reason, so I have to pick this up. Yes, I lost my temper. Not at her, but it's something else. So I have to pick up a black chip. Yes, me too. Anybody else need to pick up a black chip? Anybody else? Anybody else? Maureen does. Anybody else? All right. Oh, goody. Margarita, Maureen, and Kenneth. Lovely. Okay. So we work on these, and then next time we meet, we show our chips to show we've worked on it. Now, a concluding prayer, a hymn, and then a final blessing. May the blessings of God be upon us in this hour and the day to come, that we seek truth devotedly, that we may think more independently, we may reflect more searchingly, we may know ourselves more completely, we may forgive more quickly, we may pray more thoughtfully, we may act more courageously, we may live more nobly. 2 verses of our final hymn, and then I'll ask you to join me for the final blessing.
How still we see thee and still we see light dreamlessly as the stars go by. Yet in thy dark street side, the everlasting light, the hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee.
The wondrous in hearts the blessings of his hand. Now we may hear his coming,
but in this world of sin,
those will receive Christ enters in.
The dear Christ enters in.
We tried.
Well, we tried. I'm wondering if we need to, from now on, forget the hymns and just have a good choir do it. We tried. All right. Let's join with me, if we would, in our final blessing that we'll ask to say to all of it together, and then we'll check in before everybody leaves. Let us read this together. And now, in this most special of seasons,
this most special of seasons,
may that power, stronger than the brightest star, and yet found in the most common and humble of birth,
than the brightest star, yes, nurture, heal,
transform, and guide us all our days. Amen.
Our days. Amen.
Okay, let's go around and say hello to everybody before we begin, before we leave.